My name is Graham Peck, and I'm one of the co-hosts here at Funders and Founders. For people who don't know what Funders and Founders is, we're kind of a loosely established group originally started by Matt, who you can see, and me. And then we have co-host Phil Rader, who will be joining us any minute after he grabs his lunch. He's taking lunch and learn literally today. And then the Funders and Founders community, of course, are backed by our partners at Entre, and you can see Michael Mara, the CEO of Entre, on as well. In any case, we host every other Thursday happy hours, and so the next one of those is a week from tomorrow, and then we host every other Wednesday lunch and learns. Obviously, that's what you're at right now. Today, we're super excited to have Sedale talking to us about how businesses can get non-dilutive grant funding, and we'll introduce Sedale in just a minute. But again, welcome and thanks for spending some of your time with us today. We hope that we are able to provide some valuable resources to you. So again, my name is Graham Peck. I'm a venture partner with St. Louis-based VC Cultivation Capital, although I'm based in Chicago, and we invest in seed and Series A stage B2B SaaS technology companies when they're usually around $500,000 to $1 million in ARR. Although we have sister funds that invest in life sciences, ag tech, and food science, and we're launching a geospatial technology specific fund. And I, of course, know a lot of other folks in the industry, so I'm more than happy to make introductions to any founders if I know any investors who look at their specific vertical and stage. Beyond that, because my role with cultivation is part-time, I also help companies large and small, startup and enterprise companies to build effective remote development teams. Primarily do that in partnership with a Ukrainian company called Bright Grove. So if anybody needs help recruiting more developers and doesn't care where those developers sit, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that. Shameless plug. Matt, you want to give your quick intro?
Yeah, sure. Sedale, very, very excited about today. I know this is a topic that our community, really asked for, and I myself am curious quite a bit about. So again, welcome on. Matt Camp with Deal Machine, as Graham said. Phil and I, and Phil's about to jump in here too. Phil, Graham, and I all started this a while back, and it's been exciting to see this grow. Deal Machine, we're a real estate investing technology. So I run partnerships there, always looking to team up with other prop tech companies, fintech companies, anyone in the real estate technology world. Feel free to reach out, and always looking for creative partnerships there. And Phil, thanks for joining here too. You want to introduce yourself before we kick off the actual content?
Sure.
Phil,
Hi, everyone.
sharp haircut. I need one. Holy cow.
No, I felt like I was coming down to meet the rest of my girlfriend's team at South Beach Moxie, so I actually went to the hack shop and had a barber come and take care of me. So I appreciate it. But yeah, Phil Rader with Early Growth. We really specialize in helping companies set up and scale their essential business services or back office. So kind of everything pre-seed, seed through Series C, Series D, IPO, whatever it may be. Doing everything from tax, valuations, accounting services, CFO services on one side, HR, payroll, recruiting on the other, and then any commercial business service you're looking for. But my true love is really figuring out how to connect different founders that are selling into the same target market that can collaborate, or just be able to connect other ecosystem resources where I see a lot of benefits. So feel free to reach out to me in any capacity, and love to see how I can help.
Awesome. And Michael, I know Michael's on another call, but Michael, if you want to do a quick introduction of the Entre platform, which again powers all of our funders and founders events, both happy hours and our lunch and learn series, that would be great. And then we'll let Sedale get started.
Let me unmute here. What's up, everyone? I just want to go over some quick updates. We're updating the homepage a lot over the next couple of days and this week. So if you log onto the web, you'll see kind of this stock and crypto ticker up here now, and then this news section. So we're aggregating and curating all the news from Crunchbase, TechCrunch, and whatnot about who's raising funding, who's going public, all of that stuff here. so you don't have to like keep track of a bunch of different news sites. Rooms sort of on the homepage. So when there is a room, at least for the next few weeks, it will pop up here. And it's, I don't know if you guys can see this image or not, but it will pop up basically in this top right corner here on web. So that's how we're going to start doing it for now. We'll be testing out some rooms pretty much every day now. And we're kind of just going to see how it goes and then start opening it up after that. So for those of you who are familiar with Clubhouse or maybe have heard about it, it will kind of be similar to that, where you'll be able to create a room around whatever topic that you'd like, and then other people can jump right into that live. It'll be audio only. And then when we start doing events like this, we will also enable video for those as well, for more like events. But I'm excited to start doing these and other events on our own platform, and we're getting this rolling. There's a lot of stuff coming. So if you've experienced like bugs and stuff with the mobile app and whatnot, know that we're going to be updating all of this over the next couple of weeks. And we're planning to, I haven't announced it yet, but we're planning to launch 2.0 on March 1st. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to do a big like launch and press release and all sorts of stuff. So there'll be a lot of people starting to come through starting in March and April. We're going to be growing like crazy. So if you're on the app now, I would heavily recommend you introduce yourself and get your connections up and start doing being active, because the people who are on early and build up their followings and connections are going to be able to really get the benefits as new people are coming on. So that's it on my end. I'll let you guys take it over. I'm super interested in this, and I know Sedale has got a great presentation and great topic here to cover. So if anyone has any ideas or wants to connect, just let me know and feel free to reach out. I'm obviously always on Entra and stuff too, so feel free to message me and whatnot on there. But thanks so much everyone for coming out.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone, for your time. And yeah, with that, we'll let Sedale kick off. Again, by default, everyone's microphones are off. You can feel free, as long as you don't have much background noise, to turn those on. And I'll let Sedale direct whether he wants questions at the end or throughout the presentation. I'll also keep an eye on chat, Sedale, and maybe break in if there's any need to ask a question as we get rolling. So again, we are super excited, and thank you, Sedale, for being willing to share about your passion and platform with our community here. So Sedale's been an entrepreneur since childhood. After high school, he quickly grew bored in college and dropped out. He spent some time honoring his leadership skills as an outdoor guide, leading rafting and kayaking expeditions around the world. As an adventure guide with ample downtime to study and learn, he developed the analytical and business skills needed to launch a management consultancy in Argentina focused on delivering enterprise data products to enterprise clients. From that role, he was recruited to develop and then serve as a CEO of Carbon Blue, a successful venture-backed startup solving challenges in the clean vehicle and fleet management space. Sedale led the company through MVP and helped secure a pipeline of over $1.5 million of government contracts. During that time, he gained intimate working knowledge of the challenges and pitfalls of applying for and managing grant funding process as a tech startup, which is why he created OpenGrants. So with that, Sedale, we're super excited to hear about how small businesses can get government or other grant funding and learn about the OpenGrants platform in the process. So welcome, and again, thanks.
Yeah, and thank you all for inviting me. Super excited to share. I feel like I need to go create an entree profile later so I can properly introduce myself. But yeah, really excited to share a bit about grant funding and non-dilutive capital. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I realize that these slides are a bit text heavy, but they will help kind of explain some of the stuff. And I will just walk through from a very basic standpoint. Just kind of grants 101 is grants are this really cool format for deploying capital. They are great strategic money. So grants, unlike venture dollars, are typically connected to really specific outcomes or performance. They're connected to specific jobs. And as we roll through this presentation, feel free to like raise your hand or interject with any questions. I'll try to pause between slides, and then if you feel so inclined, feel free to unmute or throw things in chat. I won't be keeping as close of an eye on chat, so basically unmuting would be preferable. So yeah, I'm just gonna dive in from the very beginning. Grants not only are really cool, and non-dilutive, but one of the reasons that we're so excited about them and we're very bullish on the idea of connecting companies to grants is because grants typically from an agency standpoint, especially on the federal side, but also with foundations, they give you an opportunity to build a really cool strategic relationship that can then turn into a sale or can turn into long-term kind of client relationships. As you may know, procurement in general on the federal side especially is this really convoluted process. So anytime the government wants to go buy something, they have to go through this whole process that involves issuing RFPs and sourcing all of these different resources and then reviewing them. And it can take a year or longer to actually go through the process of buying things through this really official channel. So grants, from an agency standpoint, have long been used to circumvent that because they can just kind of release them. It can be, a 6-month kind of turnaround, and it's a really great way for them to be able to build relationships with suppliers, de-risk technology, invest in certain strategic initiatives without having to go through a lot of the bureaucracy that encumbers them. And so that is, grants are this really cool partnership that you can build with agencies, and a really successful grant application can turn into, years long, multiple contracts over time. And not only do they help your company grow, but they also really help you establish that initial relationship, which can be hard to do. They are non-dilutive, and that's really cool, right? They don't take up any space on your cap table. They are a great way to de-risk and develop technology. And they're also a really cool opportunity for you to validate what you're doing to investors. So one of the things that we see a lot of is companies coming to the space, getting a grant, and then on the basis of that grant, going out and raising, additional venture capital, partnering with investors on grant-funded projects. So they may be going out and getting a grant for $500,000 and then bringing in investment capital to really, double down on that runway and on that project. So they're a great way for you to validate technology as well. Did I hear a question out there, or is that? I'm just going to keep going. Grants are so much more than just non-dilutive capital. They are this really cool tool that allows you to validate your product and your technology, allows you to build important relationships with strategic partners, and allows you to attract additional, capital that may be dilutive from, whether that be VCs or family offices, or you can even go after more non-dilutive capital from other avenues in terms of just debt. So it's a really cool opportunity for a lot of reasons, above and beyond the fact that it's the cheapest money that you'll ever get for your company, for your startup. Any questions on that front?
Sedale, I'm keeping an eye on the chat, and it looks like there aren't any questions, at least not that I've seen, unless you have any privately yet.
Awesome, cool. I'm going to keep right on rolling here then. So, one thing that I think is commonly misunderstood and that we run into a lot is people have a perception that grants are not accessible for startups, or that maybe it requires you to be a nonprofit to get funding. And I just want to, my first company that I was lucky enough to exit with our founders, our first $500,000 into the company was grant funding. So startups can certainly use grants, and the government deploys millions, in fact, billions. So $750 billion in grant funding were deployed last year. And not all of that went to startups and innovation, but the opportunity is still there, even if the grant funding is going into HUD or going into a state agency. So one of the really cool opportunities with grant funding, and one of the reasons we built OpenGrants, is that you may or may not know that as a startup, you can come in and be a subcontractor on a grant. And it's a really cool opportunity because not only do you not have to go through all the work of applying for the grant itself, but you get to really just show up, they cut you a check, you do your thing, and everyone's happy. So you don't have to worry about the reporting, you don't have to worry about all of that. But the hard thing for startups to do is be aware that those opportunities are active, right? So if you ask any old startup, hey, do you know if there's opportunities for you to subcontract on a large federal grant, they're probably going to say that they don't, that they don't have any idea that kind of opportunity is going on. But just to give you a specific kind of explanation or use case of this, we recently partnered, and this was at a past consultancy that I worked at, but it recently completed this project for the port of San Diego, where they were able to electrify the whole port. So they installed all kinds of cool stuff. They installed electric gantry cranes. They installed electric trucks, deployed electric trucks to move drayage throughout the port. There's electric forklifts involved. There's all kinds of linking technology for trucks to run really close as they draft off each other. All kinds. So there's probably like 15 different startups that participated in that opportunity. And as the team that was in charge of sourcing all of this technology, the current kind of best practice in the industry is just to sort of like roll through your Rolodex, Google, and see what's available. And so a big part of the OpenGrants platform is, as you create profiles on the platform, you can be connected automatically into these spaces. And we actually, one of our main monetization strategies, because you don't pay anything to create a profile on our platform, one of our main monetization strategies is deploying data and tools to these management consultancies and these consulting teams that are building these projects, so that they're aware of the most interesting, compelling startups in a space. So as they look at infrastructure projects or these large deployments of capital, they're able to pull you in and make you part of that relationship if you opt into it. So there's huge opportunities both to receive grants as a prime applicant and use them for R&D, but then there's even this larger ecosystem of opportunities to partner with large companies getting grant funding. And it's federally mandated that they partner with small businesses and startups. And so not only is it a good relationship to have, but it's also a mandated thing. And so there's a lot of opportunity for startups to really participate and derive a lot of opportunity to demonstrate or straight up sell your technology into these relationships. I'm not going to go too much into this case study, but I'm going to pop over here to talk a bit about where you can find grant funding. And I'll do a kind of a quick demo of what our platform delivers as well. And then we'll talk through how to actually win and be successful in finding grants or in securing grant funding. So as I mentioned, grants and grant funding opportunities can be a bit hard to find because the information traditionally has been just spread out over so many places. So grants.gov is the repository that everyone probably knows, and that's all federal funding. There's a company called Instrumental that does a great job of sourcing and collecting foundation funding. There's the SBA, which has a pretty strong listing of grants specifically for small businesses, but certainly not inclusive of everything. And there's also the Seed Fund NSF website, which is the NSF's SBIR portal, which you don't really need to understand anything more than there's a lot of funding for research and development of hard tech. And that's one of the main places to go find those opportunities. So and that's just a short list. There's California's grants.gov, there's the Foundation Center, there's all these tools out there, and they're either like built by the government and have terrible UX and UI and don't have all the information you need, or they're built by private companies and they're rather expensive to use. And so those are kind of the options you have or had before we built OpenGrants. So one of the really exciting things about OpenGrants, first and foremost, is that it's free. So you can go find grants for free that match your company. And not only can you do that, but we do have a really interesting, compelling tool on the platform. And I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit just to show you a little bit about the opportunity here, because it's really important to understand that this money is like, these are your tax dollars, and right now, the problem is that the same people keep coming to the table to take advantage of this capital. And it's leaving out a lot of really great innovators and a lot of really great folks. So this is the OpenGrants platform, and you should be seeing up at the top of your screen a thing that says portal. And feel free to shout out if this starts to lag or isn't going in the right direction. But one of the things, if you are a founder, that you should be able to do is quickly and efficiently get connected to grant funding. And that's what we built this quick start tool for. So what this does is it walks you through the amount of funding that's available currently for startups and founders. And it walks you up to a decision tree here, and then starts to connect you to grant funding. So the first thing to consider is, as I mentioned, grants are really good strategic capital. So they're tied to specific objectives and outcomes. And that means you need to have a pretty solid understanding of what your business is achieving. So if you're doing things that are more on the nonprofit or social impact side, so housing the homeless or working in the education space, impact innovation could be the place that you want to start. If you are delivering tools to businesses that help them move to digital platforms or help them manage inventory or do something more efficiently or better, then that's your business innovation is probably the space you want to choose. And then technology innovation, this is all about like deep science tech-based companies. So, when Graham's talking about, life sciences, if you're building jet engines, those kind of things, there's tons of funding for technology innovation. And all of this is non-dilutive. And to give you an idea of the scale and scope of this funding, the average award size on our platform is about $1.75 million in non-dilutive capital. So that's like a really big first check-in for companies that are doing really kind of truly innovative and disruptive things. So you can select one of these, and then you walk through a process to really dial in, are you for profit? Are you nonprofit? Do you meet like a federal small business designation? Is your business owned by folks in the United States? And all of these questions will help filter and match you to grant funding. And then as you get down, you'll be able to pick some more information based on those inputs. You'll be asked some additional questions. And I just want to get to the end here. So and this is all free to access. So I invite you to check it out later, and you can kind of really think through this stuff. But basically, you'll get to a point and the platform will tell you, all right, you're eligible for around $3.6 million in potential funding from these spaces. And just so you know, so you can feel at ease, you can always go back and reset all your inputs and look again if you feel like you maybe fall into different categories or you're looking multiple times for different opportunities. And so what we do here is we actually provide you with, for free, you can get access to these DIY resources. And these are detailed guides about how to navigate and really find grant funding. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. Our mission at OpenGrants is really to help connect founders to funding and make founders aware that the government can be an incredible resource for your business. It's not just the place that you have to, pay taxes to and deal with from a compliance standpoint and business operations standpoint, but they can be an incredible partner for you as a company. And so the platform is really all built around that opportunity for you as a business. So I'm going to pop back over and go back to sharing the presentation here. And if there's any questions, feel free to interject.
Does anybody have any questions out there? I'm again, unless it's privately used, Sedale, I'm not seeing anything in the chat at the moment.
Yeah, I actually have a quick question. I actually have a quick question here. I think this is incredible. I think it's making it process super easy. Are there any, and you might be getting to this, are there any like types of businesses that it doesn't even make sense to like dive into this? Like, because I know I've tried to do some, like a lot of them, especially around like startups and stuff, they don't usually give grants to startups unless it's like a highly technical startup. Do you know what I mean? Are there opportunities for other types of startups that maybe aren't in like deep tech or something along those lines? Because that's some of the stuff that I've run into looking into grants, that I don't know if you're also helping to solve some of those problems too.
Yeah, no, and you bring up a great point. So there are certainly businesses that, if you're a startup and you're in like the adult entertainment space, just don't, don't bother probably, especially on the federal side. Foundation wise, you might find some really interesting things. But, for someone like, for example, for Entree, you're building an innovation ecosystem. There's a lot of grant funding around deploying and supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses. And you really just have to know where to look and which places to go find it. And so that's what the platform is all about, right? But yeah, there's certainly, you might have seen that there's, with those initial 3 questions, are you doing something innovative? That's really like where we see a lot of the impacts hinge. So if you're just, if you're building another dating app, you might not be a great fit for grant funding. But if you are, building, if you're building an ecosystem of innovators, or if you're helping businesses transition to a digital space, if you're doing things, and grants are also timely, as you may have seen with COVID. There's a myriad of grants deployed to help businesses just like deal with COVID. So grants are a vehicle that agencies use to achieve certain objectives. And so if you feel like you have something that's super relevant to things that are happening, so you're in the security space, that's always a huge space. If you're doing something in healthcare, if you're med tech, there's a lot of opportunity there, even if it's not necessarily like developing cybersecurity for quantum computing. But if you're just delivering like really cool enterprise stuff for small businesses, there's demand for that kind of thing as people try to navigate COVID and move to more digital. And so there's certainly a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I love this, man. I would love to figure out how we could collaborate more with Entra and stuff too, and getting you guys as like a partner, so that because I know it seems like you kind of have like the full service, like grant writing. Is that how you guys are making most of your revenue right now?
Yeah, so currently that is it's perfect. It's 100% accurate. So we do have, as you probably saw on that last page, you can hire experts that we've curated to actually work with you through the process of applying for grants on our platform, and we take a 20% cut of whatever you end up paying them. Awesome. But we also do provide, and the real the vision here is that we provide this data back to the agencies so they can better design their funding programs. And so that's our ultimate goal in terms of monetization, is being able to.
This is great. This is great. We should definitely set up, if you're open to it, a dealer discount for all the people in Entra and we can start pushing people into this, because I think this can help a ton of people. For sure. So yeah, we'll chat afterwards, but I'm in it right now, and I'm gonna be we'll have to chat more later, because I think this is you're streamlining the entire process of this. It's awesome. But I'll let you get back to it.
No, we're super excited to partner with teams, and happy to put together some discounts for folks. Like I said, our whole goal here is, even if y'all sign up and are just on the free plan and get connected to some grants, then, we've done our business. And if you end up using this information to go apply on your own, that's awesome. We're really just committed to making sure that these resources are fully utilized. As founders, I know how hard it is to raise capital. I've worked through 4 startups by now. We're venture backed. We also leverage grant funding for OpenGrants. But it's a process, and we are very empathetic to just the amount of work and time it takes to really build something truly amazing. And the fact that the grant process just layers on all this complexity around getting funding is, I think, a tragedy and a really missed opportunity. So that's why we built this, is to say, hey, founders, we already know it's hard to get funding in the first place. So let's make it as easy as possible and streamlined as possible so that you can access this money in a really efficient way and be
Hey,
successful.
Sedale, Sashi here. I have a couple of questions. One is the information that is being submitted, is it one set of information that can be used for multiple grants? And second is, can you talk about what's the cost structure like, for example, an SBIR, NSF application using your ecosystem? It's
Sure,
pretty cool, by the way. Share Michael's thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, so great question. So on the one hand, yes, there is a level of kind of standard information that you will create within your account that can be used for multiple grants.
Hi, how are you? Good. I already paid for the food.
Of course, you can also, you also need to like build specific things for specific applications. So that's something that we are working on streamlining. And as we gain and build better relationships with the agencies, our hope is that ultimately it'll be a single application to access all the grant funding. But that's a whole like vision for the future. So right now, today, what you do is create a profile, and in that profile, you'll fill out things like your capability statement, and you'll enter information about your SAM and DUNS and all those other things so that you can reuse that for different applications quickly and efficiently. In terms of the cost structure, the experts that we curate in terms of grant consultants a lot of them are recruited out of agencies and out of big consulting firms. So we work closely with people from Accenture, Deloitte, Booz Allen, as well as working with teams of smaller kind of dedicated grant development shops that we know. So the range in cost goes from about 150 an hour to 380 an hour, depending on who you're getting and what their experience has been. We find that for SBIR, for example, I'd say that the average cost is about $10,000 for an SBIR. We do work also with a couple of financing partners who, upon sort of getting through the process of meeting your consultant and deciding to work with them, they'll send you a scope, and you may look at it and be like, okay, $10,000 or what have you. You can agree to that. You can also, very similar to how it works with, if you've ever experienced Affirm or any of those kind of platforms, we have a process where you can get like a short-term loan, basically, to manage those kind of near-term cash flow issues. If you want to just bolster or leverage that, so you can put it on kind of a payment plan, and it goes. They'll finance up to 36 months of cash for you. So that's for SBIR specifically. I'd say on average, the contract size on our platform is about 25K, and they're kind of longer-term relationships where they'll be maybe going after 1 to 3 different federal grants, and those are a bit bigger projects. So working with folks like FEMA and other folks in that space.
That's good. Thanks, Sedale.
Yeah. And then I saw a question in chat that I'll just address. And for anyone who wants to connect privately, if you've left your emails, I'll reach out, and then feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter if I don't get to your questions here today. So I'm just reading through product developer, looking for grants for women.
Sedale, it would be helpful if you could put your contact info in the chat, maybe when you wrap up with the formal presentation as well. Just whatever info. I know you already dropped your LinkedIn, but any other info you're willing to share so people can reach out to you, whether that's Twitter or email or both. So that'd be great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I will. My LinkedIn and Twitter are in there, and I will put my email as well if you want to reach out. Yeah, look forward to any other questions you might have. I'm just going to go ahead and read a couple of these. Jody Sterling, product developer for the beauty industry. I received a utility patent on a new product, which is an electrical product, looking for grants for women or women of color, people of color. The products fall in the category of beauty and AI. Are there grants for my industry? Yes, there are. You might on the AI side, you might consider the SBIR program, which funds a lot of things in that space. And you might look through just NSF's SBIR, which is the seed fund. If you just Google America's Seed Fund, you'll pull up their website. And they're kind of, the reason they're so popular is because they're very agnostic in terms of sort of industry, and they look really at like the deep tech. So if you're doing things in AI, that's a good avenue to go. You also should look through the foundations that are available. There's a lot of foundations that are investing a lot of money into women of color, people of color, and that whole space. So you should definitely look there as well. And I'm happy to kind of answer some, if you want to just like ping us on chat one day through the live chat on our website at opengrants.io. One of our team or myself can end up like really helping you move through that decision process really quickly. Another question I see here, there's a ton of money for African countries, businesses, and startups through the State Department. Do you work with them too? Yes, so any money that's coming out of the federal government, we work with. So actually there was just a new big package of USAID that went out to Africa, for example. And we work with a variety of, there's a variety of NGOs and other folks who leverage our platform to track that information. And we also have a couple of really incredible grant developers and consultants in our marketplace who work specifically on USAID with Africa, and another group that works specifically with USAID in the European area. So definitely lots of opportunity there, and great. It's a great space. Question around qualifying for SBIR. Real quick, like the basics are you a small business? Do you fit that small business designation? Is your company owned at least 51% by a US entity or US person? And are you doing something really disruptive? So the last one is probably the biggest one that I think some entrepreneurs struggle with. I know myself as a founder, we always like to think of ourselves as creating like truly like disruptive technology, but sometimes it's really like a unique combination of technology. SBIR is specifically kind of designed for almost moonshot type activities. So you have to be really pushing the edges of innovation and working on something really, truly disruptive from a technology standpoint. So there's a lot of disruptive business, like, concepts, and those are different than like disruptive technology. So like great examples are, hey, if you are, uniquely linking some, helicopters together and making a like helicopter as a service, like travel app, that's cool, but that's not really disruptive. But if you are actually building, suits for people to fly that are like usable by many consumers, that'd be cool. And that would be like on the, that would be on the like disruptive technology side of things. Another question, is it typical for consultants who assist with creating the grant proposal to get paid on a contingent basis? Oh, thank you so much for asking this question. I'm just gonna say that we don't work with people who do that. Generally, it's seen as a really sketchy and shady thing to do. And I would just advise you to not work with people who offer that to get paid on contingency. Really, typically what we find is shops or consultants, individuals who do that. They're really like kind of working on a sort of spray and pray status. So they're doing the minimum to put together a competitive proposal. And they're doing just a ton of them. They're just churning them out and hoping that a few of them hit. It's not a great way to go. So you typically want to work with a consultant who's getting paid by the hour to do work, and they've given you a scope of work. They've told you how much it costs, and work with them. And that's a big reason that we built the platform. And one of the values we provide is really, that the grant writing space is pretty kind of unorganized. There's not a really great purpose-built marketplace to find good grant consultants. And there's some great shops out there that do really exceptional work, and we're happy to connect you with them as well. But in terms of finding consultants who are going to be able to be, affordable and accessible by a startup, there was nothing out there. And so we wanted to organize this space because there are a lot of sketchy people, just like in any industry, right? There's tons of different levels of quality, and we try to, and we do a good job of curating for that really high quality group of consultants. There's a question about Python developers. I'll leave that to the chats.
I have a quick, I have a quick question.
Sure.
When does the grant funding cycle start for 2021? Because I know there's a time when the fiscal year ends. I guess it's end of December. for a grant, fundraising. So when does it generally start? Like, when do a lot of these grants like start to have money again? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's a bit of an odd year. If you hadn't gathered that yet, maybe it's a bit of an odd year for the government. So normally a lot of those programs would be starting right now. For example, NSF's SBIR, typically they announce the beginning of their solicitation process in December. Given the things that have transpired, none of that has been announced yet. So a lot of folks are coming kind of from behind the 8 ball, as they say, and are working on kind of getting up to speed still in Q1 here. But typically, you'll see a lot of the funding programs announced here in the beginning of the year. You'll see a lot of applications due, midway through the year, and a lot of awards happening at the end of the year. Some programs like SBIR really run quarterly, so they expect early pitches at the beginning of the quarter. They expect full applications at the end, and then they award within Q2. So they'll get applications in Q1, award in Q2, and the cycle continues, right? So beginning of Q2, more applications, more awards happening in Q3. Unfortunately, there's almost no standardization around generally how all this works, but typically that's how it goes. Is you'll see new programs announced and new grants announced at the beginning of the year. A lot of diligence and decisions happening either on a quarterly or annual basis. And those are the two kind of main cycles out there, and they differ. They really do differ from agency to agency, which is once again why we built the platform. It's relatively impossible to say anything without that qualifier that I just said, which is, hey, it really depends on the agency or the foundation, because there's almost no standardization in this space. Feel free to keep coming with the questions. Love them. And I'm happy to continue answering them. I'll just touch on, how we are successful in writing grants real quickly. And just to kind of give you a frame of reference here, at the consultancy I worked at before getting really into this space, we would apply for grants regularly, and we won 99% of everything that was applied for. And I bring that up just to say that, working off of a success rate with your grant writer is not necessarily a good statistic, because it's really easy to, as a talented consultant, it's really easy to pick and choose and always win. And that's something to think about. And so this is why we broke down this process here, because it's not anything new. It's something that we've taken from all of the awesome teams that we've worked with, who really they just win. That's all they do. And so execution on this kind of process is really key to being successful. And so just to highlight kind of how it runs, the first bit is, you need to understand who's deploying capital and why they're deploying it. And you need to align yourself with those strategic goals. The second seems really straightforward, but it's really important. Follow the rules. So typically we see grants get rejected, maybe 30 to 40% of grant applications get outright rejected by the agency, which means that they never actually reviewed the grant itself. They just rejected it because whoever submitted it didn't follow the rules. So every grant that's deployed comes with a set of rules and a scoring system. And they'll say, hey, they'll do everything from define what kind of font size you need to use to the size of your gutters on the pages. So you have to read very carefully these grant solicitations to understand the rules and the scoring system. If you don't follow the rules, your application, no matter how brilliant it is, will get disqualified. And that's one of the real tragedies, and one of the things that we're working on solving from a legislative and process standpoint is that, we've seen great ideas just get outright rejected because someone, used the wrong font. And that's kind of an extreme example, but it's real and it's happened. And so, you have to not only be ready to tell a good story, but you have to follow the rules, whatever those may be. And as I said, there's almost zero standardization, so it's a bit hard to do. But the next thing is you also want to just be very real. So Don't be overly complex, use concise language. And then finally, you need to be a good partner. And this goes back to the thing I was saying earlier of like, you have opportunities as a startup to partner with companies and be a subcontractor on a grant. And that can be a really great way, not only to get some capital in and experience the system, but it can also be a really great way for you to establish your legitimacy as a good partner, someone who's going to execute well. The thing that bureaucrats typically are trying to avoid is just looking silly. And they want to work with people who they know and they have confidence in are going to deploy capital properly. They're going to administer everything properly, and they're going to just do a good job. And so they're looking for those people. And that's why a lot of capital ends up going to universities and larger companies who've applied before, because the government has confidence in those people. And so once again, you want to do the work to establish yourself as a good partner, and then you can be a prime applicant. And so, you know, these are kind of the nuances that the consultants on our platform can help you think through. But you can also really just kind of dive in and you can meet with these folks. And that's kind of my closing comment that I'll say is, you know, the whole point of all this, as I said, from a very like meta kind of goal, is leverage the government as a partner in building your business. They're there to serve you. The government is built to serve the citizenry. I think we forget that sometimes. And these are civil servants. They are there to take meetings with you, build relationships with the agencies that align with your strategic goals, whether it be economic development or building new tech or delivering, you know, they're interested in job creation. They're interested in your success, and they want to be a partner. And sometimes, frequently, they don't know how to partner or how to work with you, and you have to be responsible for setting that up. And so that's one of the really cool things, and one of the cool opportunities I'd encourage you to use the platform for, is just figure out who's deploying grant money in your space and go meet with them. Get meetings with the agencies, get meetings with the people who run these programs, and help them understand what's happening, because frequently they just don't know. You know, they are one or maybe a team of 3 or 5 folks who are working within this massive bureaucracy, and their whole goal is to like do this one thing, you know, help businesses be successful. But they have no idea how to do that. They're not necessarily subject matter experts. They're usually career bureaucrats who they want to be a servant. And I have, you know, had great relationships with a lot of folks in the space, and they want to do well and they want to do good. They just don't really have any idea how, except for their feedback loop is people from the industry who work with them. So you should become part of that loop. Yeah, definitely. So I'll just dive into some more questions here. I know we're kind of running close on time. Question, my company is a business innovation that executes through some deep machine learning. Do grants exist for innovation work in machine learning? Yeah, same space as before. I'd say SBIR is a great place to go. And then depending on what sort of innovation you're doing and service you're delivering, you know, you might qualify for some other things. But SBIR is a really good avenue for, you know, machine learning. Another question, you get the meetings but not moving forward, then what do you do? You know, government does move slow. Kind of patient persistence is one of the things. Also, you know, be aware that these folks, they tend to, they're not always the best at thinking sort of creatively about solutions, and they rely on you for that. And this isn't because they are not creative people or any sort of like disrespect to a bureaucrat, but simply their work is not like, their process is not hardwired around the same things that we as entrepreneurs think about. It's very much like, it's this process driven, like what's on the chart thing. And so you want to provide that input. If you're getting meetings and having discussions and not moving forward with anything, that's really on you. You need to learn to ask the right questions and make the right suggestions. And definitely, you know, our consultants and other folks in the space can really help you with that. And then there's also like all of the legal qualifications that you might need to move through as well. But that's a whole different discussion, but also something we can help you with. And then great challenge.gov, also a great place to like look at grant funding. Really cool setup there. And there's a variety of sort of challenge.gov kind of sites out there. And we do list quite a few of them on the platform as well. But yeah, definitely great opportunities in that space.
Awesome. Well, as we're getting close to the end of time, we certainly have the option to stick around, but I want to again say thank you to Sedale for taking time to share that knowledge. I know that probably a lot of folks on here got a lot of benefit. And Sedale, if you would again, drop your relevant contact info into the chat just one last time. Again, please feel free to reach out to Sedale as a follow-up after this and or use the OpenGrants platform. Above and beyond that, I wanted to quickly just say that 2 weeks from today, we are having another one of these lunch and learns hosted by Gust, talking about how to use the Gust platform to simplify legal and cap table management. And then 4 weeks from today on March 3rd, we have Phil Rader, one of our co-hosts, and his CFO, talking about the way that that early growth can help startups manage their finances and other things that they do. We've also got more exciting topics, and 2 weeks from now, we'll announce what the next one beyond that is. So again, thank you, Sedale, and certainly feel free to stick around and ask additional questions in chat or over video or audio as long as folks would like.
Yeah, and I think there's so much on this topic, and Sedale, I'd love to have you come back in like another quarter or two and do another one of these. Also, for everyone, we're doing our next investor lunch and learn tomorrow, or office hour tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's with one of our investors, also lawyer, Michael Weiser. He runs Westchester Angels. And you can practice your pitch. You can ask him questions about funding and stuff as well, and raising capital. He's mostly experienced as an angel investor and running an angel group, but he's also a lawyer. So you can ask him some questions about that too. I just dropped the link here, entre.link/events. That just goes right to our whole event page, and you'll see all of the upcoming events. But Sedale, this was great, man, and definitely want to do more with you. And figure out how we can integrate our have you listed on Entra so that people can find you easier, and then do more of these going forward for sure.
Yeah, that sounds great, and I'll definitely check it out. I meant to play around with it a bit this weekend, but didn't get a chance. So I'm excited.
It's all good. Yeah, you should definitely introduce yourself on there for sure. I'm sure a lot of people will be keen to check out OpenGrants, and then yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of stuff that we can do. So would love to collaborate. I just booked office hours with you next week to go through some stuff, because
Awesome.
I definitely want to try this out for Entra and figure out how we can get some grant money for what we're doing, because it's definitely out there, and I know like there's a lot of programs right now for entrepreneurs and startups and businesses. So would be pretty cool. So yeah, if there's anything else that you want to say, or where should people connect with you? I know you dropped your email in here. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap up?
I'll actually just bring up, I totally forgot to mention that we do have office hours every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. And basically what we do is we host up to about 12 people who sign up. Everyone kind of puts in their RSVP, lets us know kind of what they're working on, and we curate from our marketplace experts who will meet with you for free for an hour, and they'll help you work through whatever you need to work through. And so we do that every week. It's pretty popular, so if you don't see some open spots for a while, that may be why, and we may scale that up a bit as we see more demand. But
yeah, we could really, actually. Yeah, because I'd love to start doing office hours even on, because as we roll out rooms, we want other people to do office hours. So there's so many different things that that we could do, man. And yeah, I'll be on those. I'm taking advantage of that. So I'll see you on those next week for sure. But
awesome.
Yeah, Graham, Matt, anything you guys want to say before we wrap up?
No, just one final thank you to Sedale, and yeah, again, if anyone wants to stick around and ask any final questions, that you're welcome to do so, as long as Sedale has time to take them. Thanks everyone for attending, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. We'll see you next Thursday, a week from tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern for our next happy hour.
Thanks.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. And I unfortunately do have a call that I have to jump to, so I'm going to
See you, Sedale. Thanks so much, man.
use myself. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again. Thanks everybody. Have a good week.